Okay.
Hi, Simcha. I am Scott Kahn. How are you? I'm co-hosting with Franciska.
Great. Let me just turn my reverb off. Give me a second.
No, you need reverb.
I need reverb?
You always need
I don't go
reverb.
anywhere without reverb. Okay, how's this?
Live on Facebook.
Okay, we good with the
Hold
sound?
on, let's.
And again, I'll repeat for Simcha here, you can share on your social media platforms. We're live on Facebook as well.
Hey, Franciska, do you see it? It's up on Facebook now.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you don't open that page because then we'll hear double. That's my experience with Zoom. So, meaning the page should be going, but it shouldn't be open on your page. All right.
Okay, we ready? Do we have Chaim?
I don't know if we have Chaim. If we don't have Chaim, then
We start without Chaim.
we'll start without Chaim. Okay, another 2 minutes, then we'll get moving. Okay. Hello, Uri and Yocheved Cohen. We're there as well.
Hi, nice to be here.
Hi, Uri. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for waiting. We'll just be another minute or two, and then we'll officially start. Okay, Moshe?
Rabbi
Moshe Braun?
Kahn,
Yeah?
hi. Is my sound okay?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
I hear an echo.
There's a little echo, but it's nothing to worry about. It's not amazing, but it's fine. It's not a problem.
Because I don't have, actually, where's the, okay, because I only have AirPods.
All good.
It's okay?
It's all good. It's all good.
Fine. Okay.
Okay.
We're good.
Do I have an echo?
No, you sound great, Franciska.
Okay, great.
I made everybody paranoid.
With your underwater sound.
With my underwater sound that I've been leaving with people like, don't you work in recording for a living? And it took a long time to fix that particular issue, but I'm glad it's better for this. Okay. Okay. In 1 more minute, we'll get moving and then we'll officially start. Okay. Is that okay? I guess if Chaim doesn't come, then when he joins, he'll join, right, Franciska?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start recording now. Okay. And making sure everything is good here. Okay, Franciska, are you ready to go? Should we get started?
Yes.
Panelists are all ready?
12:59. I don't know how yucky we want to be.
Okay, so I don't mind waiting another minute, another few minutes. Simcha, are you ready to go when we're ready?
I'm on.
You're on. Okay, great. Okay. Great.
Should we have, should we be on mute?
No, it's okay. If you want to, I mean, you're more than welcome to put yourself on mute if you want to be on mute until we start off. But those people who are on the panel should not be on mute. Everybody else should be on mute. If you personally want to put it on mute for a few seconds, then while you're not speaking, that's up to you. Okay?
Okay.
From what I understand, Zoom generally does not, it only lets a certain number of people talk at a time. So it's not such a big issue. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Okay, Franciska, should I
We are.
take it away?
The mic is yours. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So hello, everybody, and welcome to Bitul Torah and Creativity, the challenges and opportunities of being a religious artist, brought to you jointly by the Franciska Show and the Orthodox Conundrum, both of which are part of the JewishCoffeehouse.com podcast network. My name is Scott Kahn, and I am pleased to be here with my co-host, the voice of Jewish arts and entertainment, and a marvelous and well-known performer in her own right, Franciska Goldschmidt Kosman. Hello, Franciska.
Hi, Scott. Hi, panelists. Hi, everyone who's watching. Thank you so much for being here.
We do appreciate everybody being here today. Before I start opening up and introducing our panel, I want to first give a quotation from Rav Kook Zatzal, which appeared in the London Jewish Chronicle on September 13th, 1935, and to which I was alerted by my Rebbe, my teacher, Rabbi Moshe Simkovich Shlita of Chicago. The quote is as follows: "When I lived in London, I used to visit the National Gallery, and my favorite pictures were those of Rembrandt. I really think that Rembrandt was a tzaddik. Do you know that when I first saw Rembrandt's works, they reminded me of the legend about the creation of light? We are told that when God created light, it was so strong and pellucid that one could see from one end of the world to the other. But God was afraid that the wicked might abuse it. What did he do? He reserved that light for the righteous when the Messiah should come. But now and then there are great men who are blessed and privileged to see it. I think that Rembrandt was one of them, and the light in his pictures is the very light that was originally created by God Almighty. And that's the quote from Rav Kook from 1935. I think this quotation really encapsulates the possibilities inherent in artistic endeavors for religious Jews. If we can have the vision of a Rav Kook, which admittedly is a rare thing, but if we could have the vision of someone like Rav Kook, the arts and creativity can be seen as a genuine source of spirituality, a repository that contains tremendous opportunities that cannot be squandered. On the other hand, it seems like the arts very often are denigrated in religious circles. The pasuk from the Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments, Lo ta'aseh hapesa v'chol tmuna, do not make for yourself an idol or a picture, any picture, seems to be a dominant motif in certain circles, in many of our communities, perhaps implicitly, if not explicitly. And some of these problems certainly apply to music as well. This question, this dynamic, this tension between arts being something which we should look forward to and encourage versus arts, which is something which should be put on the back burner if it should be there at all. So today's panel discussion will be an attempt in the short time that we have to go through some of these issues and balance these tendencies. So let me introduce our very illustrious panel right now. First, we have Abie Rotenberg. He's a prolific Orthodox Jewish musician, composer, and entertainer from Toronto. He's been producing music since the mid-1970s with a style which has been described as soft and sweet with a strong folk influence. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today, Abie.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here. And it's a fascinating subject.
Well, thank you for joining us. Simcha Leiner is here as well. He's been one of the biggest stars in Jewish music for over a decade. After releasing his breakout single, Kol Isha, he went on to reach international critical acclaim as well as popular acclaim with millions of views on his many YouTube videos. And he is a well-known musician. And again, it's an honor to have you here as well, Simcha.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Moshe Braun blends the creative and passionate qualities of an artist together with the patience and skill of a master sofer. Result is Judaic art and safrut for clients and fans all over the world. And frankly, I should know, I'm the proud owner of several pieces by Moshe in my house. And aside from his art hanging in my living room, he's also a very good friend and a neighbor of mine and a wonderful, wonderful human being. So for many reasons, Moshe, I'm really privileged to have you with us today as well.
An honor and a pleasure, really. Thank you.
I believe Chaim Aizenshtat is not here yet. Is that right, Franciska?
Not yet.
Okay, so if and when he joins, we will introduce him as well. He's a well-known he's a well-known person who brings artists to prominence. He's placed pictures and paintings into well-known museums and has also developed certain artists as well. Franciska, why don't you start us off with asking our panel some questions?
Okay, wonderful. I would just like to preempt this conversation with sharing that the inspiration for this panel came after I watched Bittul, where I started thinking about issues through the from yeshiva male lens, which I have not been focusing on for many years. And the idea of the main characters, they're only coming to life and finding inspiration, passion in life after being connected to their artistic calling. And both art and music and other forms of art, but that mainly inspired this conversation. And we'll start with the first question here, and we'll start with Abie. What can you tell us about the challenges you faced as an individual in the Torah yeshiva world, as someone who had a desire to pursue a career in the arts?
Well, in my own experience, I was very fortunate. I went to a yeshiva where some other fellows who were a few years older than me had already forged a path with music. I went to the same yeshiva as Rabbi Baruch Chait, who is a wonderful composer, well-known composer. He founded the Rabbi Sons, Kol Isha, and he continues to compose and inspire Jews all over the world. Gesher Tzar Ma'od is one of his famous compositions, Mi Ha'ish. I mean, these are some of the most well-known compositions in Jewish music around the world. So he was in the yeshiva and he had already produced several albums. My first chavrusa in yeshiva was Leibel Sharfman, who was a member of the Rabbi Sons. And we went on together to do the Dveikus albums back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We're still very good friends, very close. He lives in Yerushalayim. He runs a seminary for girls and has been doing so for over 30 years. So in my yeshiva, they used to joke around that the entrance exam was you needed to know how to play guitar, not to learn a piece of Gemara. But it's not true. Our Rosh Yeshiva really did not emphasize music. He did not speak about people pursuing their artistic careers. It was a yeshiva, as most, I would say, classical or prominent yeshivas, they emphasize learning. Because in every environment, I think they consider their job and their responsibility and their mission is to get everybody to reach for the sky, to become as elite in Torah as possible. So they're not going to be pushing their students to be pursuing arts or pursuing their own passions for external or outside interests. At the same time, I was fortunate to be in yeshiva where it was not looked down upon. It was not denigrated. It was not discouraged if a student had that proclivity. There are other institutions where perhaps, the Rosh Yeshiva said, listen, this is not what we want you to be in our yeshiva for. But I think in general, I think even the greatest Rosh Yeshiva in the world will say that a person who has artistic talent, a person who has music in his soul, a person who has art in his fingers and in his mind is going to need to pursue that to some extent. David HaMelech was No'im Zmiros Yisrael. Even though he said, I sat in the Beit HaMidrash all day long to learn Torah, we know that at night his harp would come to life at midnight, and when the wind blew and it played music, and he wrote the most beautiful words of praise and smirot for our nation. So here is a man who was steeped in Torah, yet his artistic soul came to life, and we are the beneficiaries of that. So there's certainly no disagreement, I think, anywhere in the world that someone who has that ability to inspire Kol Yisrael with music, with song, with something that is, take the Paitanim, Ibn Gavirol, Ibn Ezra, Rabbi Eliezer HaKalir, who wrote the Slichot and who wrote the keynote on Tisha B'Av. These were artists, and they were at the same time great Torah scholars. So I don't necessarily see it as a contradiction, but it is true that in some circles it's discouraged, and I think that's unfortunate.
Thank you. Simcha, would you like to share your experiences and perspective?
Sure. What I would have paid to join that Charusa shaft.
We only talk music bein hastorim, we only talk music after the class,
That's what they all say. Well, interestingly enough, so for me, I was lucky enough to have people like Rabbi Rotenberg and Rabbi Chaim to look up to growing up, and I still have them to look up to as I'm still hopefully at the the foundational stages of my musical journey. But it was important to bring out, that the different yeshivas that I went to growing up all had a different way of looking at, to what extent music can enhance or detract your focus and your ability to pursue Torah without distraction. It's funny that when I was in the younger grades, it was not seen as a benefit or as a mila as much as when I was post high school. And I think, today like Rabbi started out with journeys or recording your first projects. At what point in your yeshiva education was that?
I was done. I was already in the workforce. I was out of the yeshiva.
So I
started writing in English. Yeah.
In the generation right after that, so just 15, 18 years ago, the technology to record music, the price, the cost, the barrier of entry dropped so drastically that Rebbeim, Rosh Yeshivas didn't really have much say over the matter. That if a boy or a bacher or a girl or a student was driven to produce music, to release music, there was really nothing stopping them from doing it, whether it was bein hastorim or just in general. So for, when I started in, developing and discovering music, for me it was the world was my oyster. I was able to actually produce music in my dormitory, and that is where I got most of my music out. So I think the rebbeim in my life that acknowledged the fact that music can be a distraction, yes, but on the other hand, be an amazing tool, embraced it, and those were the rebbeim that I still keep up with today.
If I just may add one more point, I think that today as well, as opposed to many, many years ago, the yeshiva experience today is so different. The yeshivas, the types of yeshivas that exist in the world, in the Jewish world, that emphasize Torah learning are diverse, because you can go to Panovich, which is, let's say, considered or Lakewood, you considered the top yeshivas in the world, and of course, in those environments, the emphasis is going to be Torah, 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 Torah. But today, there are so many yeshivas that are smaller and that have a unique clientele where they know the kids coming in need a different type of education or need a different type of emphasis. So today, the boys are choosing a yeshiva, and they know in advance that they're going there. That's a yeshiva that has so many hours a day, and they allow for some vocational activities, or they allow for creative activities. So kids today who really have a need for that can find their yeshiva, the right Rosh Yeshiva, without having that conflict that many maybe in the previous generation have to face.
That's true. However, parents might be making the decision for their children sometimes, with their expectations on their children for staying with full-time learning. Yeah. Okay, let's move to Moshe. Braun, would you like to share your experiences?
Yeah, I want to just say that everything that both Abie and Simcha have shared. So Scott mentioned, myself and my family, we live in Ramat Bet Shemesh. This summer will be 20 years we've been living here. Before that, we lived for almost 5 years in Yerushalayim. And, it's interesting. I want to make a comment sort of from the opposite end of the spectrum. In addition to being an artist, spending a lot of my time here in the studio, in a sofa, so I'm also a gabbai in our shul here, in a shul which is it's a shul which is a very eclectic type of shul here in Ramat Bet Shemesh. Definitely has a Hasidic influence, no question about it. It's actually called Eish Kodesh. And because of my eyes, I was always very interested. Part of my whole history is my journey, so to speak, is I was very interested also actually when I was learning yeshiva and going into Rabbanos. Every single one of my Rebbeim and Mashpiyim, each one on their own, they said to me, no, they said, pursue your art, use your art, use it to connect with people, use it to inspire, use it to help people. And I'm bringing up the fact of being a gabbai is because I see, my eyes are very open, and I see many, many, many different things in our community, all types of things. And I see, unfortunately, a lot of the fallout of people, not just young people, but adults who were not given the, so to speak, the license. They were not given the endorsement to pursue their talents. Instead, were really sort of pushed into, a certain direction, career, of, et cetera. And you can see, I can see in a person sometimes when they have not had that opportunity, when they have not pursued their talents, when they have really not. And so I'm saying that because I see things from sort of, I guess, just sort of a certain perspective. And I feel very fortunate that every single one of my Rebbeim and Mashpiyim, and by the way, if they didn't, if I ever detected that a Rebbe was trying to push me to sort of squash that, my artistic talent, my interest in art, I could feel that this person was not for me. It wasn't the right match, and so I just want to say that really I personally feel that it's our divine mandate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to use our talents for good. We have to. We've been given them for a reason. We have to use. It wasn't our choice what talents we were given, but it is our choice how to use them. And of course, to use them for good and to use them to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to use them to reveal godliness in this world. So I feel first and foremost that like that's a lichatchila, that's a starting point, that a person has to use their talents and skills. And if one of their talents is to sit and to learn, whether it's in Ponovich, in Shabin, in Torah's Emes, wherever, in the yeshiva of Rav Yosef itself, wherever they are, then that's their mandate. And if they've been given a gift to help people in another way, then that's what they should be doing. There's no question about it. Obviously, learning and so forth, in terms of learning in terms of, let's say, regular Siddharam and so forth and so on. But I don't know, that's what I would say, like right off the bat, in terms of just my perspective, my experiences.
Thank you so much. It's important to hear how it is a Jewish idea. It's a Jewish concept. Scott, I'll hand over the mic to you for our next question.
Okay, thank you, Franciska. Moshe, I actually want to start with you for the next question. I want to take what you said about how being an artist, you see it as a divine mandate. And I think that's very well said. I think that it also dovetails with something which Abie mentioned. Perhaps it was tongue-in-cheek, perhaps it wasn't, when he said that he only talked about music bein hasidarim when he wasn't learning Torah. And really the question is, how would an artist balance the concept of this being a divine mandate, something which God wants you to do, with on the other hand, the importance of limud haTorah, the importance of not getting into Bittul Torah, of not wasting time for Torah. I'm not suggesting that art is Bittul Torah. That's certainly not what I would suggest. Moshe, you know me very well. I do know, however, there are some people who would say that. So I want to ask you this loaded question, then we can ask some of the others as well. How do you balance that concept of Bittul Torah with the divine mandate of pursuing a career in art?
Well, I would say first and foremost that this is my Torah. In other words, when I walk in this door to the studio, so I'm involved, I feel that this is my avodas Hashem, and this is connected part and parcel with my limud Torah on a number of different levels. First and foremost, I generally choose to create pieces that I feel have importance to us as a nation, okay? That I feel are of importance to Am Yisrael, a concept that I feel needs to be brought out and needs to be shared and discussed. And I feel very much so from all the people that come to the studio, people that see my work, the people that purchase my work, that all the experience that I have, that people relate to that. So that's number one. And then in terms of trying to pursue that, in terms of trying to create those pieces, so there's a huge amount of research and learning that goes into it. Some more, some less, different levels, speaking with different people that are mashpiyim, people who are rebbeim of mine, consulting them and learning. And so I look at it right off the bat that this is learning Torah. It's part of my learning Torah. It's part of my avodas Hashem. Now, on another level, so there is of course a need to balance that. Obviously I need to try to keep up with some regular basic, for lack of a better term, let's say some basic learning, okay, to keep up with, I feel, of just Iyana Diyoma, Parshas Shavua, Halacha, right, Gemara, if for my case, my interest, Chassidus, you have a different, but I don't feel that there's an issue here of Bittul Torah. Now,
Okay.
that's how I've chosen to pursue things. That's how I've chosen to structure, my life. But again, when the moment that I walk to the studio, there are multiple things that I just feel that are asking for my attention and require limud, for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Chaim Aizenshtat, we haven't heard from you yet, so thank you for joining us today. And how would you answer that question? How would you balance this idea of Bittul Torah versus supporting and promoting the arts?
First, thank you so much for this, for everybody, and Mrs. Kosman. Thank you so much. I just want to say first, sorry for my English, because my English is little bit bad. But anyway, I will try to make it the best how much I can. I don't think anything what person do if he do something important for the family, for the parnose, it's no Bittul Torah. It's nothing about Bittul Torah. I think the parnose for the family, it's a big mitzvah to make parnose. People think the learning Torah, just the learning Torah, is the one mitzvah in the world. It's important if you have this option, if you win the lotto, or if you born in Rothschild family. But the point is, I think if you in the family, when they need the money and you have big family, you must and you have to working and to make money. It's you don't have other chance, because parnasa is also the big mitzvah. What I think, like every second when I make money, it's a big mitzvah for me. Is what I'm feeling.
I understand that. Abie or Simcha, do either of you want to add
Yeah,
something?
I'd like to jump in here.
Please.
These questions that we're discussing are really age old, and there's so many opinions and so many variations. And of course, Shlomo HaMelech said, "Chanoch lenar al pi darko," educate a child based on his way. What does that mean? His way, his talents, his abilities. A yeshiva, a Rosh Yeshiva who emphasizes full-time learning and learning constantly, is asking his student body to shoot for the stars, to reach for the epitome, for the apex, for the zenith of Avodas Hashem. And is it realistic that every student in yeshiva is going to reach that? No, it's certainly not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But would we even have today a Reb Chaim Kanievsky? Would he even exist in this universe if his Rosh Yeshiva, well, his father was a great man, and maybe he would, but many of the greatest Talmidei Chachamim today, many of the greatest people who are the eyes and ears for Klal Yisrael, the Gedolei Yisrael, they went to their yeshiva and they were inspired by their Rosh Yeshiva to reach for the stars in learning. Some of them may have had artistic talent, but they chose a life of Torah. We know from the Gemara, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said, you have to learn, you shouldn't even pursue a parnasa. We don't agree with him. We paskin like Rabbi Yishmael that a person's parnasa is v'asafta digonecha v'siroshcha v'yitzarecha. You go out and you do a parnasa, like Rabbi Aizenshtat said. And doing parnasa is not Bittul Torah because you need to do it.
Chaim, no rabbi. Sorry.
Why not?
Okay.
But certainly that, without having in the yeshiva system this education and the striving for the ultimate, nobody would reach it because we always fall short. You ask if music itself is Bittul Torah. When I sit at the piano, is it Bittul Torah? It's a better Bittul Torah than sitting around and doing something else, than wasting my time completely, watching a movie or doing something stupid. It certainly can have a much higher calling and cause, and I'm not the kind of person who can sit and learn 24 hours a day, but that doesn't mean that nobody should strive for that. I just add one more thing. I know when Eliyahu Hanavi went up to Shammai, so his student Elisha said the words when he saw his master leaving Earth, and he thought he was leaving Earth forever. He thought he was gone. This was his way of passing from this world to the next. He said, "Avi, Avi, Rechav Yisrael Ufrasha." He said, my father, the chariot of Israel and its riders." And the Targum explains, how is Eliyahu Hanavi the chariot of Israel, which means almost like a military thing. He was the chariot and the rider. And the Targum Yonason says, with his prayers and with his supplications to Hashem, he protected Israel. He protected Klal Yisrael by being such a great person. So there was one man like that on earth, and it was Eliyahu Hanavi, and he devoted his life to Torah. We cannot discount the fact that some people reach a pinnacle of Torah and Yiras Shamayim and Avodas Hashem. And yes, we don't want our Rosh Yeshiva to pull everybody into that and force everybody into that funnel, because it's not going to work. And they have to learn who their Talmidim are, see what their strengths are, but they also have to give everybody the ultimate goal and the highest possible aspirations.
Thank you. I'll jump in and introduce the next question. We'll start with Simcha, and you could add in because they are a little bit interconnected. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I would like to separate two topics that are going on here: pursuing the art as a calling and for the art's sake of it, and then monetizing that art, turning it into parnasa and business that everyone agrees in one way or another that that's justifiable Bittul Torah, versus pursuing the art and that energy that goes with it and the time that has to go into it for the sake of developing yourself and that higher calling of pursuing the arts. So the next question is, in the yeshiva world, where there's an assumption of learning Torah, or if you're not learning Torah, go into a lucrative career, and being a musician or an artist can sort of fall into the middle. What was that like for you in an environment that doesn't necessarily enrich or support the pursuing something that's not, a lawyer or doctor or other lucrative non-Klei Kodesh jobs and careers?
Okay, so I think we're looking at this a little bit from a very micro level, when by forcing us to identify, is music a cause of Bittul Torah or a distraction, where we can look at it more of a macro level as, is music a cause of Bittul Avoda? Like our full-time job as a Jew is to live our lives pursuing a derech, a path that is creating each and every one of our lives a holier life, a life of Avodas Hashem. And I think when you look at it more from that perspective, Bittul Torah falls into that, as an overall. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I grew up from a much more Hasidic background than some, other people that would look at this differently. And I grew up with the mantra that, like the Chassam Sofer would say, that after Torah study, music is the most powerful medium to bring someone, to excel in their Avodas Hashem. Can you imagine if we combine the two, right? You're basically harnessing step one and step two. We are grandchildren of the Shalach HaKadosh, who used to say that he would dedicate half his day, if he had the koach of music, he would dedicate half his day, because the other half of the day he would perform Torah and mitzvahs twice as strong. So I think when you look at it more from a life perspective, music is definitely not a bittul if it's done with the right intentions. Taking a step closer to what you were asking, so I had the privilege of studying by your father-in-law, Rabbi Kosman, for 2 years in Ner Yisrael. Ner Yisrael is a very career-driven yeshiva. It's a yeshiva that does tend to value career more than many of the other yeshivas that I attended. I attended Yeshiva in Lakewood and other yeshivas as well. So I was able to see the different balance and the like. So luckily, music is not really a lucrative career. It really isn't for the vast majority of people. With that in mind, I was advised, luckily, to pursue, I was not going to be learning full time or doing something in Klei Kodesh. I was advised to pursue a degree in finance, a degree in whatever it was that I went to pursue. And with that in mind, I had the Harchavas Hadas, I had the Mazel Baruch Hashem that music ended up being something that I was able to pursue full time. But having that pressure removed from, this career and music has to work, you also let the, hashgacha run its course. You let mazel take its course. You let things that would otherwise be a pressure, you get to remove those from your life a little bit. And just, it's much easier to be a ben Torah, a Jew that's, Oved Hashem, if you don't have to always make this decision. Am I doing this musically? Is it for my career? Am I doing this because I want to, or is this because something that I was born into?
Thank you so much. Who would anyone else like to share on this topic? We have some other great questions that we can
Simcha,
pursue.
how's COVID-19 working out with your parnasa? It must be difficult without the weddings and the concerts, and it must be an extremely difficult time for you.
But if anything doesn't strengthen, bitachon, it's this, or the opposite. Baruch Hashem, there's been a tremendous need for music during COVID, particularly now. So being able to pivot into this whole room transforms in an hour to a full-on broadcast facility, and we've been working every single night on it's different. It's definitely a whole different world, but it's Baruch Hashem. There's always a desire for it and a need for it now more than ever.
That's certainly true. I want to ask a question to you, actually, Franciska, a question which, because you are a woman on this panel, you might have a different perspective. And in this particular question, you certainly will have a different perspective. And then afterwards, I'd like to ask the rest of the panelists a related question. So, as I mentioned in our opening, Franciska, you are a performer, you're a singer. How has Kol Isha, or has Kol Isha and the laws prohibiting a woman's voice from being sung in public, how has that impacted your ability to impact your artistic calling? Has it been a problem for you? Have you found ways around it? Or is it a continuous issue you're dealing with on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll try to include as much as I can in this question. So I'll preempt this by just saying that for children or in the education system, for girls, it's much more encouraged and cultivated, the pursuit of arts on an amateur level. There are school productions and plays, that's Beis Yaakov, that's standard. Between Hasidic, Beis Yaakov, and modern Orthodox, it's totally okay, encouraged, and music lessons is a total part of a Jewish girl's upbringing, if that's her interest, obviously. And clearly that's different on the men's side. However, if you want to continue professionally, there are a lot of limitations that men do not have, includes Kol Isha, tznius, and personally, I'm more comfortable in the studio area, which is composing and production. So for me, obviously you have the challenge of my market being half of the Jewish population, just the women. But as my research with my podcast, interviewing Jewish women in the arts and entertainment over the last 3 years, for women who love performing, and that's the end goal, having that limitation is huge. And given the opportunity, they would rock a concert or a wedding, and they don't have these opportunities. So I think that encompasses everything.
In that case, let me take that question, Franciska, and offer it to the panel. I'm going to throw this out to anyone who'd like to answer it. I guess jump in. Let me ask anybody here, if your daughter has a beautiful voice, what would you tell her? What would you advise her to do, given the laws of Kol Isha in the Jewish tradition? Would anyone like to offer an opinion about this?
I think I will let it do what she want to do. If she want to sing, why not?
Okay.
I think it's
Is it-
important to manage expectations. I think the most important thing is for a girl who's growing up in an environment that will not allow, whatever that means, live performances beyond the accepted, what we see today. Actually today there's a huge live event with women singing only. I had the opportunity to work a little bit behind the scenes on this project, and at one point we were going to introduce a segment that was female singers and their spouses singing together. Ultimately, it was decided by the rabbinic panel to not do that. But a girl that has the musical, itch, and she wants to pursue it, as long as they know, there won't be a resentment if they know going in exactly where the extent of their musical, career will be. And there's some incredible talent and venues to pursue it.
I'll say full disclosure that if anyone would like more information about Kol Isha in general, there is an episode of the Franciska show on which I, as a guest, along with my co-host on a different podcast, her name is Tali Rosenbaum, we have a podcast called Intimate Judaism, where Franciska interviewed us about Kol Isha, both in terms of halacha as well as how it affects people in a larger sense. So that's certainly something which people can look up if they're interested in that further. Franciska, why don't you take the next question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So Bezalel and some of our guests here have been, talking out a lot. We have many examples in Tanakh, in Jewish history, of artists, true artists, David HaMelech, Bezalel. But today in the Haredi Shiva world, and my question to you is, can Bezalel be a model for religious artists, or is that just lip service? Abie, we'll start with you.
I think so. I mean, the Torah obviously said HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose him and gave him a talent and gave him a special ruach Hashem. He gave him a special spirit of expansiveness in his mind to be this wonderful artist. I certainly think it is an inspiration for anyone who has that talent. Like Moshe was saying before, he has a talent inside his heart, inside his mind that is bursting to come out, and very often it needs to come out. We know, again, in terms of music, we know that without music, we have the story in the Navi of Elisha, who could not reach a state of nevuah until they brought the musician to come and play. It creates a simcha, it creates a certain happiness, it creates a certain closeness to Hashem. Like Simcha said before, the Shari Nagina are elevated spiritual entities that I mean, I say the words. I don't know if I really understand what I'm saying, but when we talk about Sha'arim and Shamayim and things like that, but I do know that very often I'll say the words of a pasuk, and it doesn't really inspire me or affect me or move me, but then I'll sing those same words, or in shul we'll sing those same words, and all of a sudden they have meaning, and it reaches the depths of your soul. So there's no question that it is a method of avodas Hashem, whether it's through the artistry in the fine arts or whether it's music. These are blessings that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the world, and we have to utilize them, and we have to find. It's a part of Torah. It's not just like we talk about Bittul Torah. Today somebody writes he's doing an album and he does it for Parnasa. Is it if it's for Parnasa, then he's doing it for his Parnasa. If he's doing it for his enjoyment, I think somebody needs to be muted.
Yeah.
So these are beautiful things, and artistic talent should certainly not be suppressed. If a son, a daughter has that talent, thank God I have some daughters who put me to shame with their talent, and they write songs and they write lyrics, and hopefully one day these songs will be produced and released. I can't begin to imagine the Nisayan of women in general. Forget about just Kol Isha. That's one of the many challenges they have. I mean, with sneas and with the burdens that they have in general in terms of how much work they have, and it's a very big challenge. You know, but everyone who has a talent should pursue it and should explore it, and to the best of their ability, use it if they can.
Can I just add something? Can I just share something?
Please.
I just want to go back to the previous question. I just have to add this about if you have a daughter who sings. So we're actually fortunate. Both of our daughters are extremely musical, and especially our younger daughter, she is so musical, especially singing. She loves to sing. And we turn over every stone to try to give her an opportunity that's healthy and that she will feel accomplished and that she is accomplishing in obviously a matter that's permissible, within halacha. But I just think that that, again, I feel like that should be a given in Klal Yisrael. It should be a given to give people the license and the encouragement to use their talents and skills in a healthy manner, whether they're a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, etc. I think that should be just, I don't know. I think that should be lichatchila. I'm just sharing that. But I just want to also comment about Bezalel. I just want to make a little, maybe a little ha'ara. It's interesting to me when we really look at Bezalel. So Bezalel was praised in the Torah, in a very, very unique way about his qualities. But I want to bring up something which is just I think there can be a very fine line, and I'm not trying to assign one term to one manner to Bezalel or not, but I think there's a very fine line between a person who is a master craftsman, okay, and where is that line where the person moves over, let's say, to being considered to be an artist? Especially here in Eretz Yisrael, for example, people who know how to work with stone, that is a real craft, real craft. And a person who knows how to weld, there's a big difference between an amateur welder and a really top welder, okay? So that is a big difference between a craftsman who really knows how to manipulate material and an artist. Because to be an artist means you're not just a master of the material, but you're also introducing the element of being a navon or navon, that you are introducing now your own, so to speak, ideas obviously that should be dictated, let's say, by Yahadut, by Torah, etc. But I just feel that, there can be the line between the two, a craftsman and artist. I think there can be sometimes extremely a fine line. I just wanted to just share that. That's something I feel that I see that, a lot. When I say I see that a lot, I observe that a lot.
I appreciate your saying that, especially for someone like me who's not an artist. And these are distinctions that mean something to you that I wouldn't have noticed on my own. I want to move on to a different kind of question. This is really about education. And in fact, it reflects back on what I talked about at the beginning of this podcast, of this video conference, about what I was alerted to by my teacher, Rabbi Simkovich. There's a conference that took place by Atid under the direction of Rabbi Chaim Bravender and Rabbi Jeffrey Sachs in November 2003. The conference was entitled Creative Spirituality, Jewish Education and the Arts. And the transcripts that Rabbi Simkovich provided me were invaluable in helping me understand some of the issues that are at stake in the topics we're discussing today. And art is really a double-edged sword. So on the one hand, as I mentioned, quoting Rav Kook, art can open a person to spiritual possibilities that otherwise might be unreachable. And that's something which our panelists have certainly alluded to and said explicitly today. But on the other hand, the Torah contains very strong language against the idea of perhaps all visual art, perhaps only some visual art. That's something which is actually an argument. And at least in the context of worship, art is, as visual art at least, is something which is strongly discouraged. So I guess I'll ask either Moshe or Chaim, whoever feels comfortable answering this. How about in education? How do we balance this educationally for our kids, for our students, as well as in our lives? How much should art be a component of our education? And in so doing, how do we balance these opposing and opposite tendencies? Moshe, do you want to start?
Okay.
Moshe.
Okay. I would say that first and foremost, I think we have to start with understanding the child, as was said earlier. I think Abie brought it up. But we know that Shlomo Melech said, right, and we know that that's obviously critical. We also know that the rest of that teaching, the rest of that pasuk obviously includes that, so they will not stray from that path. And so I think first and foremost we have to look at who's the child, who is the child, what is he interested in, what is she interested in, and we have to first take it from there. And then of course we have to, like I was saying before, like in our personal experience, turning over every stone to find the appropriate venues and educational opportunities for our children. And that's, we know that, and I emphasize turn over every stone, because we know that many times, right? If you have a child who's a mitzian, right? We know that's no chiddush, right? You can find many yeshivas, right?
That's easy.
Child, right? That's easy, right? When you have a son or a daughter that's not such a mitzian, so to speak, right? In terms of limud, right? In terms of academics, in terms of the classroom environment, right? All of a sudden, we got to start turning over every stone, because unfortunately, we don't have a whole huge number of institutions to choose from. Okay, I don't want to stir up the topic, but the point is, though, is that critical, first and foremost, to keep, parents have to have their hand on their finger on the pulse of their children all the time. Where are they at? What are they interested in? How can they channel those interests? How can the parent go and seek out appropriate, opportunities for them? So I don't know. I think that's where it starts, the connection, basic connection between parent and child.
I hear that. Definitely the idea of the parents deciding along with the child what that child needs in the spirit of Chanoch Lenar Al Pi Darko. Educate each child according to what he needs is a very important point.
Should be healthy. Should always be healthy.
Does anybody else have any comments on this in terms of balancing the two aspects of art, the positive and the negative, that appear in Jewish tradition?
Are you referring to Los Sasel Chapeso, meaning in terms of not having sculpture and that kind of thing, in terms of like a prohibition?
Well, maybe that's an example of it. Of course, some people, like the Chavetz Chaim, saw it as a more blanket prohibition, not only in the context of worship. And I just mean in general, that has led often to a feeling that we should denigrate visual art on some level, that maybe it's not such a Jewish thing.
In music as well. I mean, years ago, there is a chazal that says that we're not supposed to, in Yerushalayim, they don't play music at weddings. They have a drummer who comes in and bangs away and sings, but, because I guess that's where we have the Korban Habayit, so we don't want to show too much enthusiasm and too much simcha. But certainly today, I don't think that anybody is I mean, the visual arts are everybody has beautiful paintings in their homes today, and I know if I'm not mistaken, I think the Gemara talks about Rebbe Gamliel having pictures of the sun and the moon and the stars. He had to show when Rosh Chodesh is, and there was controversy about that. The commentaries ask, how is he able to have that kind of picture? But today, everybody, I think, is okay, certainly with two-dimensional art, and certainly music today is everywhere. In Eretz Yisrael today, I mean, the outpouring of love for the people of Eretz Yisrael, the Haredi community in Eretz Yisrael for music today is incredible, and see how they go to these concerts and they sit there and Yoli Dickman is singing together with them and doing arrangements. It's amazing what's going on in terms of music, and it's an expression of closeness to Hashem, which is getting close to Hashem through music. So it's such a beautiful thing that we're observing, and I hope.
Abie, I think you're right. I do think, though, that there is an element of the old feelings about visual art, much more so than music. And as you said correctly, prohibitions for both of them appear in our sources, but particularly I think there might be a type of stigma that often comes in the wake of visual art, perhaps because it appears in the Ten Commandments themselves, which may not apply to music, which was a response to Chorban Habayit, a very different sort of thing. And I just wonder if that stigma, even if we don't actually poskin like that, if that's not the halachic ruling that people go by, particularly with two-dimensional art, if it somehow has trickled down to a general denigration of visual arts in a way that may not apply to music. I don't know, but it seems to me it might happen.
I don't know how to answer that. It's maybe Moshe would know or Chaim would know.
Chaim, do you have something to add?
I'm not the artist. My father is the artist, and my father also is a rabbi, and this is why, like we discussed many time people ask him, it's about Avodah Zorah. And the pesel, what they mean, it's like 3D, you know, when you make
three-dimensional.
You make when you make the part of the person, or you can't in any painting to make 3D like pesel mamish, yeah. And also if you make pesel and you don't have all the pesel, like part of him, he loses the part of the, I don't know, the leg or something of this. It's no pesel. Mm-hmm. The pesel, it needs to be pesel mamish. And first, we see, I don't remember where in Nevi'im, when Hashem asked one of the Nevi'im to make the paint for him. I don't remember I think in Yecheskel maybe. It's Hashem asked one of the Nevi'im to make the painting about the Milchamot Hashem. Yes? I don't remember, but you can to see in it's about it's a real painting. It's what Hashem asked from some of the Nevi'im to make the painting. This is why I think the stigma of I know the story of Rabbi Moshe Shapira, Zichrono Livracha, and he asked me if I have my father make the painting. It's a name Apikoires, and he really likes this painting. And he asked me if I can to bring him. It was already sold, but he really want to take it for the house of him. Yes, it's Rabbi Moshe Shapira. It's no I don't know, and I think that all the real rabbis who is going with the Derech HaTorah, not with the stigma. Yeah, they really appreciate art, and they really looking with I think the question, it's no question, you know, it's just mistake when people confuse between art and pesel. It's like two different things. It's art, it's a beautiful, it's one of the also it's a very, I think it's different, art is a different thing, but for example, my father, what he did, it's a little bit also spiritual. How is Moshe say it's part of Avodas Hashem, yeah. It's
I agree 100%.
Like,
so that we have
also, I don't think it's matter for, because if artists want to make money for the art and he make just design art, it's also good. But my father also, he have every painting what he do, it's like big message, and I feeling the big message what my father giving in the art, what he giving, it's good for everybody, also for the no Jewish people and like even for no Jewish people. Like I think also the thing what Simcha song, and it's also very important. It changed people and help people to be much better. It's also everything. I think it's very healthy, very good, and I think the question is no question.
So Chaim,
there was a time, if we all remember, when a photographer would come into a wedding hall, and you'd see these big rebbes or rosh yeshivas who would cover their faces. They didn't want their picture taken, and it wasn't because of humility. They thought it had something to do with this not having a tmuna from the Torah, but
two-dimensional.
Even two-dimensional. Today, that is really no longer an issue. I mean, the centerfold of the Hamodia magazine has every gadol anywhere in the world today. We've moved on to more important issues, and Baruch Hashem, music is established and accepted, and people realize the value it brings to Kol Yisrael, and the same thing for photography and art, and certainly for two-dimensional creativity.
Maybe I'll jump in here for a second. I'm sure you are well aware of the story with Eli Cohen. Eli Cohen is one of the greatest Jewish piano players. He lives in Lakewood. He is also one of the foremost translators and transliterators for Art Scroll. Many of the Schottenstein Talmud Masechtas were actually translated by him. His father is the great Rav David Cohen, one of the great poskim of today, who his Rebbe was Rav Hutner. And when they were relatively newly married, Eli Cohen was a young boy, and Eli asked for a piano. He asked his father for a piano. Rav David Cohen had a few $100s to his name, and he asked his Rebbe, Rav Hutner, if he should spend basically his entire savings on piano. Not only did Rav Hutner encourage it, but he followed up later on, and Eli Cohen turned into this, it developed his geschmack for everything Yiddishkeit in a way that look what he's accomplished. I mean, Rav David Cohen, we don't have to talk about his accomplishments, obviously, but his son, Rav Eli Cohen, not only became a foremost piano player, but also a true Talmud Chacham, a real.
If he would have become the Talmud Chacham had he been denied the piano. Very, very true. Very true. Wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we have time for one or two more questions. I know some of our audience members wanted to ask a question, but maybe you can share in one sentence with us any positive artistic opportunities that arose for you by being in the yeshiva community. So positive, the pros.
I'll give one positive. If you write a song and then you call 20 guys into the room and you sing it for them and see if it works. So you get it, you have your audience, right there in the room. You have your focus group.
Immediately.
Yeah, I mean, yeshiva is the opportunity to do whatever you are going to do undisturbed. So whether it's learning or developing a craft. I mean, I think most in the college world, they say what did you do in college? You learned whatever you wanted to learn, and you learned guitar, how to play guitar. It's the same concept. It's in yeshiva we had an opportunity to express ourselves without the judgment of those around us that would have not necessarily have approved or even approved of a different method. And yeshiva was, I mean, the Ner Yisrael.
You mean Ner Yisrael, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Ner Yisrael Amud was my launch pad. I mean, I can't.
I think what Ner Yisrael is a good example. I have many friends from there. It's really amazing yeshiva. And I think the parents, they need to know who is the person, who is the personality of the person, and they need to send him the right yeshiva. And many times you see the guys who can't to see that they don't have the zits. Yes, I don't have my zits. I can't sit long time, and I don't think in yeshiva I was grow how I want, or it's impossible. And this is why I think the parents need to know it's different personality of the personality, and everyone need to find the right yeshiva for him. And you have many good yeshiva when you can to mix and to learning Torah half a day or 2 hours a day and to working what you want to do. It's very important to don't think what the community will say. You need to give the person the good place for when he can to grow and feeling comfortable. I think it's very important.
Yeah, it's very important. I'd like to open up our panelists to the audience. We have time for one or two quick questions. So do we have any raised hands here? Scott, can you help us here?
Yeah, okay. I see someone named Henya Stores. I'll unmute you if you can, if you don't mind asking your question, okay? I think you have to unmute yourself, Henya. Okay.
Okay, how's that?
Okay, good. Thank you. Now we hear you. Thank you.
Hi, first of all, what a great program. Hi, everybody. I'm Tanya Storch from Woodmere. This is amazing. I'm a patron of the arts. I'm very involved in an organization called Atara that works with thousands of women, girls and women, for conferences. And I've worked with Franciska. She's amazing. I'm really proud of you. Yay. Brady's the best. She's really great. This is a wonderful program. I just want to say one thing that hasn't been, was touched a little bit in the program. Art and music and visual arts and performing arts has an extraordinarily therapeutic component. There are therapists and music therapists. My background is I have a master's degree in nursing, and I work in the healthcare field, bringing in artists to patients' rooms. And someone had asked, to elevate their spirit and do a lot of psychological work with them. So all of your music and what you're doing, just so you know, has such a great component to help heal people and to fight with their immune system and so on. So that's another angle that's really, really important. And there is a lot of parnasa and a lot of monetizing in that field. People are paid to do that. Just for all of you with COVID, and someone asked a question how has COVID affected the industry? So I'm sure all of you know that there's so much music and things on Zoom now. And Yasha Koach to all of you who produce great works and who really elevate people's spirits so much. It's so helpful at this time of isolation and quarantine. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Henya. Thank you very much. If anyone else has a question, please raise your hand or press the reactions button so we can see it. But I just want to mention that Toby Klein Greenwald sent a message that regarding what we talked about when it comes to Kol Isha, she said that she wrote an entire paper on it, and anybody who would like to receive it can write to her at Toby, T-O-B-Y, at wholefamily.com. That's Toby at wholefamily.com. So Toby, thank you for offering that. That's a paper about Kol Isha, and it was actually published in the Orthodox Forum in 2013 as well. Okay.
Just wanted to say, I'm very grateful to the YU Orthodox Forum that the conference took place actually in 2011. And I did a lot of research for that paper, and too much to go into now because we have no time, but there are absolutely and definitely Rabbanim, including the Eretz Yisrael, Rabbanim Haridim, who for sure say that a woman's recorded voice is not a problem, and I'll be happy to send this to anyone who wants to read it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Franciska, I think we're just about out of, I'm sorry, okay, Chana Felag, I think there's time for our last question, okay? Let's, please unmute yourself, okay? And
Hi, regards from Ramat Beit Shemesh. Very interesting conversation. I'm glad I made it. I don't have a question as much as a comment on some of the things that you discussed as far as women in the business and encouraging our youth to have their voices heard. I actually disagree with some of your opinions regarding encouraging our children to go into the arts because it's good for their self-esteem and their voices should be heard and you should follow your passions and your dream. I feel like we need to be a little bit more realistic. I've been performing, singing, writing, selling songs, and working in music for 20 years now. And the only reason I was able to succeed and keep my head above water as a female singer was because I worked so hard on all of my skills. So talent is wonderful, ambition, motivation, heart, and soul. But I feel like something we don't talk about enough is actual skill. So when people write to me, and I get these letters all the time, my daughter has a great voice, how could you get into music? I almost always discourage people, and I tell them, unless you have cash to burn, or unless you're completely musical, you can play an instrument, you're a great performer, you're a great songwriter, you have supportive parents, you have all the tools to record your music without falling into a depression because so few people are hearing it, then it's for you. I just think we have to be more realistic, and this way we'll have the most talented of our youth in the music business producing, potentially even greater quality Jewish music, in years to come.
Right. Just to point out, though, as it was that I mentioned before, the concept of managing expectations, that was the reason for that. Talent and success in the music industry do not necessarily go hand in hand, and that is something very, very important to understand. You'll meet some of the most talented artists that just never made it, and then there are people like me that we get by, you know what I'm saying? Chaim, just social interaction, mazel, being at the right place at the right time, hashkacha, those are really the things that I think propel an industry. Being talented, being trained, being skillful. I spent 6 years working in some of, Johns Hopkins University and working with some of the best vocal coaches in the world, but
I agree.
I felt like a lot of that didn't actually aid my career as much as, hashkacha, as much as
100%.
Yeah.
I agree with what Kahn has said. But I don't think the discussion we had up until now was talking about having people pursue their artistic talent professionally or for parnasa necessarily. I mean, a family that has no aspirations to record any albums for the public, but where the son plays piano and the daughter plays guitar and the mother plays the clarinet and the father plays the violin, it's the most beautiful thing. So have your children and have a family with music, or pursue your artistic talents and have them hanging in your own home, is still a beautiful thing, and it gives a child and a person a great joy. But it's true what Hannah says. If telling your child, well, you're going to become the next Simcha Leiner who can sing, for hours on end at a chasana, that may not be the case. And that's true that parents have to be very careful how they guide their children for parnasa purposes in general.
Yes. So I think we could close with this. It's definitely important to differentiate between, encouraging and being a supportive community, parents, education, administration, understanding the value of children need to pursue their artistic calling versus creating a new career where we're training instead of Talmidei Chachamim and Rabbi, and we're producing a bunch of singers and artists. This is not necessarily the professional development that we're trying to bring more of or bring awareness into the Haredi and Yeshiva community, but more the artistic side of children needing to express themselves, and how that can compromise their spiritual connection with Hashem, with God, because neglecting your need for expression can definitely interfere with religious expression and observance. So Scott, I'll give the floor to you.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of our panelists. This was a very, very interesting evening. I guess for some of you it's daytime, for me it's an evening. Abie Rotenberg, Simcha Leiner, Moshe Braun, Chaim Aizenshtat. It was an honor having you all on. I certainly learned a lot. I'm sure everyone listening and watching learned a lot as well. I also want to give a special thank you to Franciska, who was the person who had the idea of this panel. I was brought on board because of her chesed, her kindness, not because I had that much to offer. She's the one who has everything to offer over here. So she really is the voice of Jewish arts and entertainment. So thank you, Franciska, for including me, because this is something which I probably would never have done if not for your insistence. So thank you. And please, everyone, remember to check this out. It's available on Facebook. And also, we're going to be making it as a co-production of the Franciska Show and the Orthodox Conundrum. So you'll be able to see it or listen to it on both of those platforms, which are part of jewishcoffeehouse.com. And frankly, Franciska, I think we probably at some point will do a follow-up, because there seems to be a lot of interest, and our panelists had so much to say that we didn't nearly get to finish everything we planned on talking about. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Franciska, and everyone have a good day and stay healthy.
Take care.
Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.